The life of influencers might seem wonderful, full of luxury, travel, mansions, beauty, and even the appearance of the perfect family, when in reality, they could be living a terrible lie. That's the case with Gracie Piscopo, an influencer with over 1 million followers on Instagram and 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. Gracie was born in Australia on June 10, 1996. In 2013, she started posting content on Instagram where she gained thousands of followers thanks to her beauty and personality. When she was 19, she started a romantic relationship with a man named Andre Rebelo. A year after they met, they moved in together, and in 2019, they had a beautiful baby. Gracie made vlogs about her family trips, her morning routine as a first-time mom, and generally showed off a life that seemed really lovely. Her fans would comment things like, "I want a family like yours," or "I want a boyfriend as sweet as yours," not knowing that Andre wasn't the man everyone thought he was, and was actually hiding a dark secret. Hey there, I'm Pau, and in this video we're going to talk about Andre Rebelo, an evil man who betrayed his family in the most horrible way for money. I hope you find the video informative, so let's get started with all the details. As I mentioned, Gracie and Andre seemed to have it all. Good looks, travel, a beautiful house, a fancy SUV, but it was all a sham. In reality, they were spending more money than they made. They owed more than $120,000 to different banks. The SUV was rented, just like the house, so they didn't actually own any property. Gracie worked really hard at her job as an influencer, always posting content, looking for sponsors, and at the same time raising her baby. Meanwhile, Andre kept losing money on investments in crypto, which is a kind of digital money that uses cryptographic encryption. I don't know much about that, so don't ask me to explain, but apparently Andre didn't know much about it either, because that's how he lost the family's savings. The financial stress started causing problems in their relationship. In reality, they weren't the happy in love couple they pretended to be. Let's talk about Andre's family. His family consisted of his mother, Colleen Rebelo, who was 58 years old, and her 4 children, Julian, Andre, Monique, and Fabian. Julian and Andre no longer lived with their mother. Being the oldest, they already had families of their own, while Monique and Fabian were still living with her. Monique was studying to become a paramedic, and Fabian, who was 19, had taken a break from school and was working at a local supermarket. Colleen is described as a wonderful woman. She was a great mom, very loving, who would do anything for her children. Colleen divorced her children's father when they were still little, so she had to be a single mom. And she worked really hard to be the best mother she could be. She devoted all her free time to her kids, putting her own dreams on hold. But for her, family was the most important thing. She worked as a waitress, as a bartender in bars, and took any job that gave her a flexible schedule so she could spend time with her family. She worked incredibly hard to make sure her family never lacked anything: a roof over their heads, education, food. When her kids were older, she decided to go back to school and managed to graduate from college. She even got a job in the healthcare field, finally achieving her dream. Colleen was a very admirable and strong woman. She accomplished everything she set her mind to, even while dealing with some health problems. Colleen had a disease called Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder that affects the thyroid glands. Even so, everything seems to be going well in Colleen's life. She had just graduated, landed a job at a place she loved, and above all, had 4 wonderful children who loved her. Or so she thought. On May 25th, 2020, Colleen took her son Fabian to work. Afterwards, she returned home, where she was alone since her daughter Monique was studying. She was supposed to pick up her son Fabian at 2 in the afternoon, which was when he got off work, and she was usually a very responsible and punctual person. But that day, when he saw that his mom didn't show up, Fabian started calling her, but unfortunately, he didn't get any answer from his mom. He kept trying, sending her messages, calling her, but his mom never answered, so he decided to walk home. When he came in, he heard the shower running and walked over to the bathroom. He knocked on the door to let his mom know he was home, but again, there was no answer. Fabian got worried and started shouting, "Mom, are you okay? Mom, do you need anything? Did something happen?" But Colleen didn't answer. Scared, Fabian decided to go into the bathroom, where he found his mother's body lying motionless on the floor. He called emergency services. They gave him instructions on how to give her first aid while the ambulance was on its way, but it was no use. Colleen had passed away. When the paramedics arrived, they tried to revive her, but it was confirmed that Colleen had already lost her life. All her children were shocked by the news, and above all, were heartbroken by the sudden loss of their mother. Everyone except Andre. Colleen's death appeared to have been from natural causes. She was an elderly woman with health problems, but little by little, suspicious signs emerged, and perhaps her death was not a natural cause, but an evil plan on the part of Andre, her own son. Okay, back to Andre and Gracie. As I mentioned, they were having financial problems and a lot of stress. Gracie was the one supporting the family, and maybe Andre felt pressured and like a failure for not having a steady income, because in his big investments, where he risked both his and Gracie's savings, he had only made a total profit of 22 Australian dollars. So Andre, instead of, getting a job like a normal person, decided that the best thing to do was to take out not one, not two, but 3 life insurance policies on his mother and make himself the sole beneficiary. If his mother were to die, he would receive more than $1 million. He did all of this completely on his own. Gracie had no idea that her husband was planning to kill her mom, much less did he tell his siblings about it. He took care of all the paperwork himself, committed fraud, identity theft, lied on the applications, and applied for the life insurance policies just 1 week before Colleen died, which is not suspicious at all. His plan was to kill his mom, collect the money without anyone finding out, and when he suddenly had $1 million, he would just say he made it through investments. So on May 25th, 2020, he decided to go through with it. He knew his mom would be home alone. He had keys to the house, so he thought it would be really easy and no one would suspect him. That same morning, Andre had made plans to go out for breakfast with Gracie and one of her cousins. But when Gracie woke up, he was already gone. He had left without telling her. At first, when she realized Andre wasn't home, she got a little worried because it wasn't normal for him to leave without saying anything, especially when they had plans to go out early in the morning. But even so, she thought maybe he had gone to the supermarket or run a quick errand. But as the hours went by and there was still no word from him, she got upset. By 11 a.m., she was desperate and started calling him. In the span of 15 minutes, she called him 12 times, but he didn't answer. Gracie sent him several messages, which said, "Answer your phone! Where are you? Don't you have a phone or what? What's wrong with you? Damn it, why aren't you answering? I'm really furious. I'm really angry." Gracie was very upset because she couldn't believe her own husband was ignoring her and had stood her up. A few hours later, around 2 p.m., Andre came home acting like nothing had happened. He just walked in and said, "Where are we going to eat?" Gracie was in shock because she had spent hours calling and texting him, and he showed up like it was nothing, totally unconcerned, saying, "Oops, I had my phone on silent." Before going out to eat, Andre texted his mom asking if she could watch his baby that day or the next because he had some errands to run. But he sent these messages knowing he wouldn't get a response because he himself had just taken his mother's life. A few minutes later, he got a call from his brother Fabien telling him that their mother had passed away. It was believed that the cause of death might have been a heart attack since Colleen had heart problems. They also thought it could have been a brain aneurysm. Since it wasn't considered a suspicious death, no autopsy was performed. The forensic authorities inspected the scene and the house, but there were no warning signs. All the windows were closed, and no entry had been forced. But her daughter Monique did notice some suspicious things. For example, Colleen was wearing makeup, and she never showered with makeup on. She also had her hair tied back in a ponytail, and we all know that if you're gonna take a shower, you leave your hair down, or if you're just gonna wash your body, you put your hair up in a bun, but not in a ponytail, because then the hair that's here is gonna get wet. If you don't want to get your hair wet, you put it up in a high bun where the water can't reach it, so that's suspicious. Also, she was wearing her jewelry, and again, that's not something Colleen usually did, especially since she was wearing a watch that wasn't waterproof. Another thing her daughter noticed was that her towel wasn't in the place where she usually left it. But at the time, she didn't mention it because she was very sad. She couldn't even imagine the possibility that her mother had suffered an attack. Another person who also started to get suspicious was Julian, the oldest son. He didn't live in Perth, but after his mother's death, he decided to come back for a few months to take care of his younger siblings and handle some paperwork. Julian was gathering his mom's documents when he realized her driver's license was missing. He asked his siblings if they had seen it, but they all said no. They had no idea where it could be. That's when he noticed Andre was acting really strange. He could see that Andre was uncomfortable or anxious. He asked him again if he knew where their mom's ID was, and that's when Andre confessed. He said he had it because he used it for some paperwork related to the passing and all that. Julian thought that was really suspicious because they had agreed he would handle the paperwork. So why was Andre doing it behind his back? Then he was even more surprised to find out that the mail that was supposed to go to Colleen's house was being sent to Andrea and Gracie's house. Why would he do that? Why would he change his address? Especially when the younger siblings were still living in the house. So why wouldn't the mail be sent there? And when he checked that mail, he discovered the insurance policies. That's when he confronted his brother. Andre said he had talked to their mom, and she was worried about turning 60, so she asked him to take care of the insurance policies. But Julian didn't believe any of it, especially after realizing that the only beneficiary was Andre. He knew his mom would never do that. If she had taken out an insurance policy, she would have named all her children. Around the same time, the police contacted Julian saying that the family was under investigation for fraud and homicide. The 4 siblings were questioned separately, and search warrants were obtained to inspect Colleen's house as well as Gracie and Andre's. Not only did they search for evidence in those homes, they also installed hidden cameras and microphones. The detectives discovered that Andre not only forged copies of his mom's medical certificates, but also faked her last will, once again making himself the sole beneficiary. Andre was arrested for fraud, but he was released on bail. Gracie was never considered a suspect, and as I mentioned, they placed hidden microphones in her house and a secret camera in her living room. Thanks to these devices, the police gathered information from September 9th to December 7th. That's how they got confessions from Andre. And it became clear that Gracie didn't know anything about the plan. In the recordings, you can hear her say this: "What have you done? You've gotten us into big trouble. Why would you do that? You did something stupid. What was your plan? To run away, leave me and your son behind, and just go?" Andre replied, "I didn't think this would happen, but I'm not going to jail. I'll get my money and then leave the country, but I'm not going to prison." Colleen's death happened in 2020, but the investigation took years because without an autopsy, the cause of death was unknown, so it was hard to charge anyone with homicide. But with the help of other evidence, in November 2022, Andre was arrested again and denied bail. During the trial, it was revealed that Andre's laptop history had been erased. He deleted all his internet activity from December 2019 to July 2020. It was also discovered that Andre's cell phone connected to signal towers located near his mom's house during the time Colleen was supposedly home alone. Additionally, witnesses stated they saw a white Range Rover around 12 a.m. on the day of the incident. That description matches Gracie's SUV perfectly, which Andre drove that morning. Despite all the evidence, Andre kept denying it. The prosecution needed the cause of death to make their case stronger. So they offered Andre a deal. They told him, "If you confess, we can give you a lighter sentence." If he didn't, and was found guilty, he could face a life sentence. But Andre didn't take the deal because he claims he's innocent. 2 years later, on December 5th, 2024, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. Andre Rebelo was found guilty of killing his own mother. The sentencing hearing is scheduled for January 2025. So we'll have to wait and see what sentence he gets. But most likely, he'll get life in prison. Her siblings and other people close to Colleen are devastated and in complete shock. They can't believe Andre went that far when Colleen was always a good and loving mother to him. As for Gracie, she's gotten a lot of hate on social media for having been Andre's girlfriend, and some people even accuse her of committing the crime with him. But like I mentioned, she was never a suspect and had no idea about any of it. She didn't know about the insurance policies, she didn't know about the forged documents, or about his plan to do what he did to Colleen. I think it must have been really hard for her to find out that her husband, the father of her child, was capable of putting her under financial stress, spending her savings on cryptocurrency, lying to her, ruining her credit history, and on top of that, being able to take his own mother's life. And now, on top of all that, she's getting so much hate on social media. Poor thing, she doesn't deserve it. She's not to blame for what her husband did. Currently, Gracie has a new partner. She looks really happy, and it seems like he's a good man who treats her well and loves her son as if he were his own. Let's hope he's not just putting on an act, and that he really is a good man. And that's it. That's all the information about the case. I think it really shows that not everything we see on social media is true. In the comments section, please let me know your opinion. Tell me what you thought about the whole case and what sentence you think would be fair for him to get. Any comment you want to leave means a lot to me. A huge thank you to everyone who always comments. You make me feel so happy. And thanks also to those of you who are like little ghosts who have just recently started commenting. Thank you so much. I think that's really, really sweet too. If you liked the video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Especially because I just found out that around 50% of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So if you're one of them, if you like my videos, you should subscribe so you don't miss any new ones when I upload them. I upload a video every week, so if you're interested in these topics, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. I know I've said it like 1,000 times already, but thank you to everyone who subscribed, commented, and supported me. Thank you so much. If you like my content and want to see more of me, but not necessarily true crime cases, I have a second channel called Paula Minerva Vlogs, where, as the name suggests, I do vlogs. Right now I'm doing Vlogmas, so if you're interested in seeing what my daily life is like, I'd really appreciate it if you went and subscribed too. I also make content on social media, but it's different. It's focused on fashion and outfits, so if you're into that, I'd really appreciate it if you followed me there too. And that's it. I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!